Welcome to the virtual game of basketball.com tip of the week for June 30th, 2015. My name is Troy, and once again, I'm here to help you get miles ahead of the competition. Now, people have been asking me, Troy, why don't you talk about defense? Who wants to play defense? I'm just kidding. Now, defense is probably the most important element of a championship season. We know that, right? But how many people do you see going around with their chest sticking out, touting defense as a way to describe themselves? I mean, really. I got D. No, I got jumper, I got handle. We hear just about everything else. But when it comes to defense, it's one of the unheralded things of the game. But the most necessary element for championship play. Now, on-ball defense and off-the-ball defense are the two things that if you master, you are guaranteed two things. You're guaranteed to make the team. And if you're the best defender, I guarantee that you're going to do a lot of playing. Or at least you should do a lot of playing. If you're the best defender and you're not getting ample minutes as a result, then you're probably not in a quality basketball environment. That's for sure. So let's talk about on-ball defense. Because on-ball defense, if you get the reputation as a defensive stopper, that's a role that you can play without putting the ball in the basket. I mean, there's only one ball. There's five guys. And so that means if all things were equal, you'd only have the ball 20% of the time. And, of course, it's never equal. So you can really create a niche for yourself as a terrific defender. Now, there's certain elements that you have to concern yourself when it comes to defense. Number one, school. School is just an acronym for going to class. Well, school's also an acronym for sizing the player up, controlling him or her, harassing them, organizing the defensive strategy while you obey a few defensive principles so you can lock a person up. Now, that's the school I'm talking about. Now, sizing the person up deals with, kind of like a scouting report. You kind of look and you evaluate and you see whether or not the person likes to go to the right, for example. They're a quality shooter. They've got pretty good range. They've got pretty good physical talent, pretty speedy, pretty quick. You think about all these things as you start to develop a strategy or a plan of attack defensively. You should always have a plan of attack, even on top of whatever scouting report material you may find. You have your own little thing. This little nuances. You keep them in mind. You make a little log of those things. So you size the player up. So you kind of have an idea of how you want to approach the player defensively. Then you seek to control them. And the way to control a person defensively is to shade. And shade means that you're actually enforcing or enticing the person to go one direction by taking away another direction. And defensively, if you think about the offense of a player having three lanes, their strong side, their weak side, and a middle lane if they're in shooting range, then you want to occupy you always want to occupy two of those lanes, whether it's lane one and always lane two, or whether it's one and always lane two. That gives the defender the greatest opportunity to control the defender. And by doing that, you're not competing for the spot that your hand should cover. You should be arm distance from the player, and you should be competing for the common spot. And the common spot is the spot on the path to the basket that you share with the offensive player. So the offensive player is trying to get to the basket. Is that right? I mean, if they can get 100 layups in the game, you have no shot. So all the threats to go by are geared towards going to the basket. So it's very important that you protect that common spot, because that's on the way to the basket or the queen, which is the main point of emphasis defensively. Is that right? Of course. So you're sizing the person up, you're controlling the person. Arm's distance away gives you an opportunity to better control the person. If you feel like you're quicker than the offensive player, then you can get arm's distance from the body. Now, that's also one of the rules that we'll talk about in a second. If the person is quicker than you, then your requirement is to be arm's distance from the ball. That's tight defense. Anything else is poor defensive position. I see a lot of guys put themselves at a disadvantage by violating the arm's distance rule from the defender or the ball, whatever the case may be. So if you're sizing the person up and you're controlling them, then the next thing is you want to be able to harass them, whether it's verbal, whether it's with arm movement, whatever you can do to distract, because you're just trying to disrupt offensive flow. That's what your goal is. Now, beyond harassment, you're going to have to obey some defensive principles. You know, the hands distance from the ball is one. Occupying 2 lanes is another. We talked about that. And anytime you're threatened, you want to air towards the basket, air toward the queen. So anytime you're threatened, you back up a little bit. Now, one of the most important things to be an quality defender is you have to learn to develop range of motion on defense. And range of motion is being able to start that movement in the direction without committing to that direction. Because it's important that you keep your feet wide so that you can be in 2 places, or you have that absolute speed that we've talked about before. So it's so important that you come up with or obey the principles in terms of arm's distance, like we said. And see, these are the things that if you're able to do these things consistently, you won't find yourself you won't get yourself into tough spots defensively. You won't be compromised defensively. Playing defense is tough. So you want to give yourself every opportunity possible to be able to come up with a stop, collectively and individually, because the better defense you play, the easier it is for the help defender. Is that correct? Obviously. So you organize, after you obey these principles, it gives you an opportunity to organize a strategy. Now, you've sized the person up, right? You're seeking to control them. You've got some strategy in mind to which direction you want to send them. Now, you're hawking and harassing them. You're obeying defensive principles and organizing a strategy. Well, that's a recipe for locking the person up or making them give the ball up. You know, we're good at any of those things. You know, so defense is, like I said, one of those roles that you can play, and you can assure yourself time out on the floor. And time on the floor gives you the opportunity to do other things like scoring the basketball and being productive in any other fashion. So, back to the top. Schooling the person on defense. You're going to size them up. You're going to seek to control them. You're going to hawk and harass them. Organize a defensive strategy. Obey some defensive principles. And you can lock them. Which way should I turn it? Okay, for the camera. You can lock a person up. And that's the school I'm talking about. Yeah. So, anyway, you can find all this information in my book, The Virtual Game of Basketball. And what chapter is that? I can't remember what chapter it is, but it's D or Die. I mean, that's how you got to feel. You know, you have to be gladiator-minded to be a good defensive player, because you have the skill set and there's will set. And defense takes a lot of will set, just inner fortitude. So, anyway, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this segment. And once again, go tell all your friends that you're getting all this great information from the Virtual Tip of Week on virtualgameofbasketball.com. This channel that we're bringing you. Don't forget to check out the Virtual Game of Basketball. Go online and just try it on for size. You might find some things in there that will be of value to you. Actually, I guarantee you that you will. There's some articles on the site also. There's an article on my site, which is the Virtual Players Blog. What is it? D is the key, if you ask me. That's a good article also, in conjunction with this information on defense. So there you have it. And until next time, for the tip of the week, this is Troy Miles, and I'm going to see you next time. By the way, I almost forgot the number one thing on defense: denial. Don't let the person get the ball in the first place, because offense has the advantage in basketball. If the person is super serious on D, it's hard getting stops. So Deny your man the ball at all costs.